My name is Alex, and this is the story of how my world crumbled when I discovered my wife's affair, and how I got my revenge in a way that left her regretting every single lie she ever told. This isn't some Hollywood drama, it's real life, messy and painful, but with an ending that gave me closure. If you're watching this on YouTube, grab a coffee or settle in with a snack, because this one's going to take about 20 minutes. I'll try to keep it straightforward, no fluff, just the facts as they happened to me back in 2022. I'll dive deep into the details, the emotions, the little moments that built up to the explosion, because that's what makes it real. Buckle up. Let me start from the very beginning so you can really understand how deep this betrayal cut. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and kids play hockey on frozen ponds in winter. My parents were hardworking. Dad was a mechanic, Mom a school teacher. I was the middle child, always the responsible one, good with numbers but not so great with people. That's why college felt like a fresh start. I enrolled at Ohio State University in Columbus, majoring in business administration. It was 2010, and the economy was still recovering from the crash, so I took every opportunity seriously. Scholarships, part-time jobs, you name it. That's where I met Sarah. It was freshman orientation week, and she was in my group for a campus scavenger hunt. She was this vibrant girl from a tiny farm town in rural Ohio, with long, wavy brown hair that she always tied back in a ponytail, green eyes that sparkled when she laughed, and this infectious energy that made even the most boring tasks fun. She was studying marketing, dreamed of working in big city advertising someday. I remember her wearing these oversized hoodies and jeans, looking effortlessly cool while I was in my awkward button-up shirts. We clicked instantly, bonded over hating the cafeteria food and loving old 90s movies like The Shawshank Redemption. By the end of the week, we were grabbing coffee together, and it just snowballed from there. Our relationship grew organically through college. Late-night study sessions in the library turned into all-nighters, where we'd quiz each other on econ terms while sharing greasy pizza from the 24-hour joint down the street. Sarah was my motivator. She'd push me to apply for internships, saying, "Alex, you're smarter than you think. Go for it." And I was her anchor, helping her through homesickness or when her part-time waitressing gig got overwhelming. We had our first kiss under the stadium lights after a Buckeyes game, the crowd cheering in the background like it was meant for us. By junior year, we were living together in a cramped off-campus apartment, cooking ramen and dreaming about the future. Graduation came in 2014, and we both landed entry-level jobs, she at a small ad agency in Columbus, me at a tech startup doing data analysis. Life felt full of promise. We got married 2 years later, in 2016. It wasn't a fancy wedding, we couldn't afford that on our starting salaries. Instead, we had a simple backyard ceremony at her parents' farm. About 50 guests, family, college friends, a few coworkers. Sarah wore a white sundress she found on sale, and I rented a suit that was a bit too big. Her dad walked her down an aisle lined with wildflowers, and we exchanged vows under an old oak tree. "I promise to always choose you, every day," she said, tears in her eyes. I echoed something similar, feeling like the luckiest guy alive. Our honeymoon was a road trip to the Smoky Mountains, hiking trails, cozy cabins, making love by the fireplace. It was perfect. The first 5 years of marriage were solid, or at least that's how I remember them. We saved up and bought a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Columbus in 2018. It had a big backyard for barbecues, and we adopted a golden retriever puppy named Buddy right away. He became our fur baby, chasing squirrels and sleeping at the foot of our bed. Sarah's career took off. She got promoted to account manager at her firm, handling bigger clients. I'd switched to a more stable role at a mid-sized company, crunching numbers for marketing campaigns. We had routines that felt comforting. Friday date nights at our favorite Italian spot, where we'd share a bottle of cheap Chianti and talk about our weeks. Weekend hikes in nearby state parks with Buddy bounding ahead. Lazy Sundays binge-watching Netflix shows like The Office reruns, quoting lines back and forth. Intimacy was good, too. Not fireworks every night, but consistent and loving. We'd make time for each other even when work got busy. We talked about kids someday, maybe in a couple of years when we were more settled financially. There were small arguments, sure, like over chores or money, but nothing major. Sarah was always the planner, booking vacations and organizing our social calendar. I handled the bills and home repairs.
It felt balanced. Looking back now, though, there were tiny cracks I ignored. She'd sometimes zone out during conversations, staring at her phone, or she'd cancel plans last minute blaming work. I chalked it up to normal adulting stress. After all, we were in our early 20s building careers. Who didn't have off days? The first real red flag hit in early 2022, right after the holidays. Sarah started working longer hours than ever. Her firm had landed a massive contract with a tech company out of Silicon Valley, something about digital ad campaigns for their new app. "It's a game changer, Alex," she'd say excitedly, "but it means late meetings and maybe some travel." At first, I was supportive, brought her dinner to the office a couple of times, rubbed her shoulders when she got home exhausted, but then things shifted. She'd come in at 9 or 10 p.m., immediately hopping in the shower, her phone glued to her hand. Our sex life dipped. She'd claim headaches or fatigue, and she got weirdly protective of her devices, always face down on the table, password changed without telling me. One night, in February, I remember it clearly because it was Valentine's Day weekend. We'd planned a romantic dinner, but she texted at 5 p.m. "Stuck at work, big deadline, rain check?" I was disappointed but understanding. That night, alone with Buddy, I ordered takeout and scrolled through old photos on our shared iCloud. That's when I noticed something odd. A few pictures from her work event the last week showed her in a dress I'd never seen, laughing with colleagues at what looked like a bar, not an office. No big deal, right? But it nagged at me. The suspicions built slowly, like a drip turning into a flood. She'd mentioned this guy Mark more and more. He was a senior account executive on the project, mid-30s, divorced, or so she said, with a charm that apparently lit up meetings. "Mark's so hilarious, he had everyone cracking up today," she'd say over dinner. Or, "Mark suggested this new strategy, it's genius." It started innocent, but then I'd catch her smiling at her phone, typing quickly. One night in March, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced, habit, not suspicion, and saw, "Can't wait for our next meeting, wink," from Mark. My heart skipped. Who sends winks about work? I didn't touch the phone, but it planted a seed of doubt. When she came out, towel-wrapped, I asked, casually, "How's the project going?" She snapped, "Why are you always interrogating me lately?" Her defensiveness hit like a gut punch. That wasn't my Sarah. I tried to brush it off, told myself I was paranoid. Maybe it was work stress or migmarital blues. We even had a heart-to-heart one weekend. I said, "I feel like we're drifting. Let's plan a getaway." She agreed, but nothing came of it. The distance grew. By April, she announced a work trip to Chicago for a conference. "It's mandatory," she said. "I'll be back Sunday." I offered to drive her to the airports, but she waved it off. "Uber's easier, babe, don't worry." That Friday, she left early, kissing me goodbye with what felt like forced affection. The house felt empty without her. Buddy whined at the door. Saturday night, I was home alone, nursing a beer and watching a basketball game, but I couldn't focus. That seed of doubt had sprouted. On a whim, I logged into our shared iCloud. We'd linked accounts years ago for family photos and backups. Her Find My iPhone was on. She wasn't in Chicago. The dot was right here in Columbus, at a Marriott downtown, just 20 minutes away. My mind raced. Flight delay? Emergency? But why not tell me? I grabbed my keys, heart pounding, and drove there. Parked across the street in the shadows, feeling like a creep in a bad thriller movie. Hours ticked by. Around 10 p.m., the lobby doors opened, and there she was, Sarah, in a sleek black dress, arm-linked with a tall, handsome guy in a tailored suit. They were laughing, heads close, heading to the attached bar. I recognized him from a quick LinkedIn search earlier that week, Mark Thompson, her coworker. My world tilted. I sat there frozen, tears blurring the windshield as they disappeared inside. I didn't storm in. Rage mixed with shock kept me glued to the seat, so I drove home in a daze, poured a stiff whiskey, and collapsed on the couch. Buddy curled up next to me, sensing something wrong. How could she do this? We'd built everything together. House, dog, dreams. The betrayal felt physical, like a knife twisting. I barely slept that night, replaying every moment, every excuse. She came home Sunday afternoon, all smiles. The conference was amazing, networked with so many people. She hugged me, chattering about sessions and speakers. I played along, forcing a grin, but inside, I was crumbling. "That's great, honey," I said, my voice steady by sheer will. But I needed proof before confronting her, and accusations without evidence would just make me the bad guy. So I started gathering intel quietly. First, I checked our joint bank statements online, subtle charges for lunches, a hotel here and there that didn't match her stories. Then when she was asleep one night, I borrowed her phone, unlocked with her fingerprint, trust, right, and scrolled through texts. Most were deleted, but I found fragments in the trash folder. Last night was incredible. Miss your touch already, from Mark. Explicit stuff that made me nauseous. I dug deeper, installed a discreet tracking app on her phone. Yeah, I know, it's invasive, borderline unethical, but when your marriage is imploding, lines blur. Over the next month, the evidence mounted like an avalanche. GPS logs showed late nights at the office were actually motel meetups on the outskirts of town. Recovered deleted messages painted the picture. The affair started 4 months earlier at a teen